Hello everyone, this is Redbirds again. The topic and all that I want to discuss all that today it's about bank runs. I got this from World Crunch. It's the website and all that. Alright, it's only a day old. New signs of invisible bank runs in Southern Europe. Cash shifts to Scandinavia. Throughout the Eurozone, banks are quietly hemorrhaging money as serious and nervous clients seek safer havens for their cash. Some large companies deposit directly into the European Central Bank. Other clients are looking north to the presumably more secure Scandinavian banks. The clients want their money. They want it in cash, whether it is because they need to get it or because they fear the drachma will return. Many Greeks are pulling their money out of the banks. The hemorrhage is so big it threatens to sink some banks altogether. The situation looks critical in other Eurozone crisis countries as well. So far, bank customers wanting to withdraw their money haven't suddenly descended on the banks in droves. But in Ireland, Spain, and Italy, an invisible, though no less threatening, bank run is ongoing. Statistics from national central banks show that billions of euros are flowing out of Irish, Spanish, Italian, and even French banks. The most flagrant example is in Greece. There, since the end of 2009, deposits in commercial banks have dropped 25%, down 60 billion euros to 180 billion euros as of this past October. In Spain and Italy too, business clients in particular are turning away from their banks. Companies have started withdrawing their funds from banks in Spain, Italy, France, Belgium, says Kenner Lockhockney, I can't pronounce the name, an analyst of a U.S. banking client, Citel. At the two biggest banks, Spanish banks, the BBVA and Santander, deposits by business and institutional investors fell by more than 10% in the third quarter. Italy's uncredited has also lost 10% of its deposits, while rival Intesa suffered a whopping 16% loss. Also affected by the lack of client confidence are some French banks, particularly the Societe Generale, but also the market leaders, BNP Paribas. For banks, the result has been serious liquidity problems. The drop in deposits is partly the blame, but the bank run is taking place on several other levels as well. Money markets funds struggling with high outflows are no longer buying short-term securities from the banks, and there are no takers for long-term bank bonds. But since the end of June, some 17 billion euros in unsecured European bank bonds have been sold. At the same time, last year, the sum was 120 billion euros. Many European credit institutions have virtually squeezed out of the interbank market. Bankers are lending very well, whether it be in euro or dollars, or to each other. This means the bank's main financial sources have dried up. They are being drip-fed by the European Central Bank, which is generously keeping them going with short-term credit. Scandinavian banks are the main beneficiaries of banking problems in the so-called PIGS, which belongs to it's Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain. People are fleeing the Eurozone, says Greg Anderson of the Night Credit in Copenhagen. The northern companies are proven to be more secure ports. A lot of money belong to businesses and insurers and pension funds is going to Swedish banks like SEB and Swedbank. Investors also perceive Germany's Dutch bank and the Dutch bank ING as a secure place for their money. Both banks and governments are in a vicious circle. The worse the debt crisis gets, the more bonds of highly indebted Euro members lose value. And the worse it gets for the banks, particularly hard-hit institutions like BNP Paribas and Societe Generale, and also Commerce Bank, which let the PIGS money. Bad notes from the rating agencies make the situation that much more complicated. One thing is for clear, unlike in 2008, now this is really important, the industrial Western nations are no longer possess the strength to rescue every bank and guarantee client deposits. Capital flight already as one victim. Dexia Bank collapsed because it could no longer get any money short term. United action taken by the central banks, including the Feds, ECB, and last week turning the money faucet, and stokes the suspicion that there may be other banks facing collapse. The more difficult it is for the banks to cover their financial requirements, the greater the danger that a large bank fails. People have lost complete confidence in their banks, not even in Greece, but cannot be excluded that the nightmare of a spiraling run on deposits become reality, with clients suddenly turning up in droves saying, "I want my money." Something we really need to think about is that, I'm somewhat of a theologian and stuff, is because I'm in school and I did a number of essays and theses on U.S. history. People forget by 1930 over 5,000 U.S. banks went under. And there's one particular story. You go on YouTube, look at the Great Depression. I forgot who it was, Bernard or something like that. I forgot what it was. He went up to a shoe shine boy every morning before he went into the Wall Street. And he says, "Well, what's the news today?" He said to this kid, this teenager that shined shoes. The shoe shine boy said to him, "Sell everything." So this Wall Street trader or whatever, very wealthy, of course, went into his office, called up his broker, and says, "Sell everything." And the broker said, "Why?" "Because if the shoe shine boy can tell me that the stock market is going to crash, it's going to crash." All right? And you know, the thing is, we feel it, we see it. The Feds and everybody's pulling everything, all the rabbits out of the magic hat. We can't keep printing money, and we are in debt. We're over 18 trillion in the United States, Europe. But if something would happen in Europe, people forget a lot, is that Greece borrowed money not just from the European Union, and European Union trimmed their debt, but they also borrowed money from Americans' banks. So did a lot of these other European countries. And if what happens in Europe affects us. Even what happened in Russia last week, even with that 17% drop, is that they borrowed money from the West, United States and Western European countries, and people were really excited about borrowing money. They think this is going to be a quick turnaround, and it wasn't. And the problem is, from that is, if these banks in Europe fail, because their banks owe our banks money, and vice versa, is that we're going to see a bank run even here in the United States. And people did it in 1929, 1930. People don't take this serious, and one of the great people I'm friends with, Greg Manarino, and he says back, we have to be urgent. We have to do things with a sense of urgency, and that's why we push. We can't sustain our military budget. We can't sustain all these entitlement programs. We're going to see problems with the bank. We're going to see lots of it, and like Greg says, get out of the dollar. All right. In 1930s in Germany and stuff, Germany was a capitalist country, and all of a sudden, with the Nazi Party took power and all that, of course. But the thing is, even the Germans, they had grocery carts full of cash and only could buy a loaf of bread. I mean, we're going to see very much hyperinflation here in the United States. But don't be surprised if these banks don't go under. There's not a ton of really solid banks. Greece, for instance, owes the United States over $680 billion. And if they default, we will feel the ripple effects here in the United States, and all the in the Greece, all of Europe is having so many problems. Europe International Monetary Fund does not have the money to bail out every country. And look what happened in Russia last week. They got problems in Spain, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, and Italy. They don't have the money. Like Greg says, understanding this, go and do your own research. Greg was a very terrific inspiration to me, because he made me go out there, instead of just doing the day trading stuff like I do now, buy and sell a little bit here or there, whatever. Go out there and actually study this. Like, one last thing. Greg says this is going to happen probably before the elections. I believe it. Are we gonna see the stock market drop 3,000 points, 4,000 points in one day? Maybe, maybe not. But what I'm saying is we're gonna see a slow decline, and the Dow Jones is just gonna spiral down slowly. And at the same time, they're trying to contain the problem, manage it, and food prices and stuff are just slowly going up. But make sure you got take care of your family, take care of yourself. Make sure you got plenty of food, and by all means, continue to pay your bills. Pay your bills and be responsible. But don't get caught with all your money in the bank, and you wake up one morning, I don't have any money. If the stock market would crash today, I would lose all my cash, and I wouldn't have any money coming in. So I really have to pay attention to this. Please subscribe. Please post really kind comments or any other information you have. I always, if I don't know something, hey, please tell me. But do your own research. All right. Don't get yourself all up in a panic like this is going to happen right now. But understand is that in the near future, we're going to see a continuing decline in the stock market, and you're going to see problems that happen in Europe, and we're going to see these Occupy Wall Street, Oakland, all this stuff happen. But most importantly is we need to do the right thing. All right, take care of each other. God bless.